just got a few little additions to do. The mast came out well, and the magnet I think is enough to hold on, and it just sits on this little piece here and holds itself up. So if you recall from the last stream, we've got the mast, full sail I mean, and the sail that's bound up as if the ship is idle or in port. So initially the magnets didn't seem to be working that well, but it's enough to hold it, because you're not going to be bumping it around too much. So I'm happy with that. So what we've got is the bit of water left to finish off on the base. Just take this little captain away. So with it sitting on its watery base, the blue is what I want it now, and I think that'll look pretty cool. What I've got is just plain Mod Podge without any colouring added to it that I'll add over the top. But what I'm going to do is add a little bit of bubbles, like wash, from the boat moving through the water, similar to the effect I've done on my previous project, where I've got a basing material, a snow basing material, pretty much white sand, just to stick on where the bubbles are coming up in the water. And then once that's on, some of these areas I'm going to cover all of the water in the Mod Podge, so it'll give it a bit more of a glossy, watery look, rather than this matte water look that we've got at the moment. And the basing material I've got is from Army Painter. It's just a basing set that you can get, that I've used a few times, and it comes with the snow, I think, is intended for, and as well as some various other little basing materials, grass, plant material. Not the things I'd need for this project for the ship, but this little bag of white sand is what I used on my previous project, just to give the effect of bubbles in the water. So we've got the colour and the look of the water, but it's flat, and it just needs a little bit of more texture to it. Not that you'd be feeling it, but visually looking at it. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue sort of around where the bubbles would be, I think, just in random little spots up the front and down the side. Not on every white piece, but just on a few, and make a trail of bubbles. So that'll be the bottom base pretty much complete. And then what I thought of was the name of the ship. So I've got a little bit of coffee stir stick, or hot dog stick, I think these ones were. So I'm just going to make a little panel, two little panels with the name of the ship. So me and my girls are really into a song called The Wellerman. So there's the ship Billy of Tea. So I'm going to carve out some little nameplates, shapes, just a sort of an angled panel, so 2 of them, and write on the Billy of Tea, and then I reckon a little bit of brown paint just to stain that wooden panel, and then I reckon 2 of those along the front. Now I was thinking maybe you don't want the ship always named the same, but I think for my project I'm going to name it, and if you're playing with this on the table, you can effectively just ignore the name and say you see a nameplate, and then build it into whatever scenario you're using. So I'm going to start off with the bubbles for the base, for the water effect, so that has time to dry mostly in place, and then I'll get the whole coat of Mod Podge on here, so it'll look completely white and wet, and then when it dries it'll be see-through, but it'll have a glossier finish than the matte finish that I've currently got here. It looks quite well, it looks like a painting at the moment rather than water. So the Mod Podge I think will give it a nice glossy look to it, similar to what I did with this one. So it's got a wet look to it. So what we'll do is we'll get a little bit of glue on and a little bit of sand. I don't need all of it, and I don't need heaps of it. I just want enough to sort of sprinkle on, like you would salt into something, so it sticks to just where the glue is. And then once that's almost dry, I'm going to cover it in the Mod Podge. So if you're just joining me, the ship's nearly finished. I think my problem with crafting is sometimes you can never be finished, so I think with a couple of extra little bits of work on it, it's at a point where it's enough. So I'm literally just sprinkling some what the effect I'm thinking is bubbles onto this glue. So it's just giving that little bit more texture to the water. Now I don't know how well this will work once it's all covered in the Mod Podge. I might need to maybe do more, but I will start with seeing what this looks like, just to give it a bit of texture. And make it look like the ship's coming through the water and just making the wash, the bubbly wash that you would get from a ship moving through the water and churning it up. So I don't want to, most of this is going to shake off. I just want to get it in bits along where the white paint is, just to give it that bubble look. just an extra layer of texture, something to look at. It might not be looked at much, but I quite like the effect on my other project. And essentially it'll just be covering my disc in this white sand at the moment, but that'll be right. So shaking it on just so those bits of glue that I've done once it sort of sticks, the rest will just come off, and it's just a really light effect with a few extra bubbles bubbling through to give it a bit more of an effect. So I might not do too much of the bubbles. I don't want to make the whole thing look like a bubble, but if you picture a ship going through water, there's the wash sort of through the back. And bubbling through, just to give it a bit more movement without it moving, really. So it's pretty subtle, but I think once it's all covered in the Mod Podge, it'll just add a little bit of extra texture to it. And I might need to come back once I've done the Mod Podge across it, just to give it a bit more along the tops of it as well. But it's not much, but it's just that little bit extra texture on it. So what we'll do is just quickly, it's probably wasted more of that than I need to, but you know, I can get this. Put that to the side. So I think now that's enough of the bubbles. So the other thing I was going to do that I mentioned was just make a name plate. So I reckon a little plaque that sits along there and there maybe, or it sort of looks to the same as the back panels. So I think I'm going to stick to just a couple of panels at the front. So nothing too big. I mean, it's just to give it a little panel to say that it's named. So this was one of the tools I got from watching another crafter, Adam Savage, who does a lot of plastic and ships for like Industrial Light and Magic and all of the Star Wars and bits and pieces he uses. He had this tool, so I was just going to see how well this worked, just to cut some edges off. Just to give it a panelly look. Take the corners off there quite nicely. And it's got a degrees written down, so you can cut it to the shapes you need. Just flatten it off. So essentially I want to do the same to the other one. I mean, no one's going to notice if it's just slightly off, so as close as possible. And these are just little extras to make it look just that little bit more realistic. And a nice little addition to a tabletop for the players to get lost in the world that you've taken them through for your tabletop game. Doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, it's just something a little bit more. So that's a really handy little tool for angles that I'll start to try and use more. So essentially these are the name panels and the name of the ship. Is the Billy T. I don't know what font I'm using here. So I could maybe etch that in a little bit, but essentially they would just get glued to there. So there you got a name of the ship. And if I put two, one on either side, they look pretty cool. So I haven't done anything with the character on the front. I think what I'm going to do for now is just leave it black. So then you can sort of, I don't want to name or paint everything on the ship, so that when you're using it on the tabletop, you can theatre of the mind, the emblem on the sail, for instance. So I haven't put an emblem on the sail, but maybe I could cut out a piece of paper that sticks to that or comes on and off for your campaign. So, or you just say the sail has a emblem that looks like a crow or a trident. So you're not bound to what you've put on here when you're playing with it on the tabletop. Obviously I've done that with the name, but quite as easily as I could just paint that as a nameplate across the side and leave it blank. But we'll see. So I've got those little projects, but overall the ship itself is finished. So there's a couple of things looking at it that I could just touch up a little bit. I put an extra magnet on here that I haven't painted yet, so I could touch that up with a little bit more paint. And I've got this anchor here. I could find some grey for that. Metallic ice. Let's see what we got. So these are the paints from Kmart, the Anko paints. I know that they had a bit of sparkle to them, so they looked a little shiny. So I won't use all of them. Some of them, yeah, they did have a visual shine to them, like a little sparkle. Something in them was sparkly. They say they're metallic, so I think it's got something in there that maybe it just needs a bit more mixing. But the copper, I think I tried, and it just had a bit of sparkly flecks in it, which I didn't want on this particular project. It didn't look right, so held off on that. When I was cutting off a little piece of extra rope, I scratched. This is just a plastic tube, so I scratched the paint off with the scissors by mistake. So just touch that up. But I think once these items are done, there might be room for one more stream, but then I will get some proper photos and make a little video to put on the channel properly, so that you've got some close-ups of what's how it's all come together. I don't. Each time I've tried something different for the channel, I've learnt things, but then I've instantly unlearnt them by not doing them the next time. So I didn't get, for some of my previous videos, I got step by step pictures of how it looked at different stages. So I've sort of got that in these recorded live streams, so I could sort of make a collage of those snippets. But I need to remember next time to actually take a picture, a nice detailed picture of what it looks like at each stage, because I missed it on this one. I didn't catch the steps when I was creating this ship or altering this ship. So that was, I need to remember that and build that into my next build, so that it's actually documented in a way that's a bit easier. I'll try and do that with what I've made these live videos from, by streaming them, and make like a sum up video of what this looks like. But next time try and do it a bit more step by step and work it that way. So what have we got? We'll colour it an anchor. I'll get it some black at the moment. So I think it's coming together nicely from a junk store find for the ship to what it has turned into here, and looking forward to sort of using it as what I intended, which is a tabletop piece to put some miniatures on and play a game with mates. I think black anchor is going to be nice for now. And I got to have a little bit of a rethink of my camera setup, because I think my desk is too long, too deep. My chair's further away from the table, or from the center of where the video's pointing. So when I pull the object up to paint, I'm pulling it out of the view of the camera. So there's some bits I need to tidy up there as well. But that is what this channel has done. It's each iteration of trying something new has identified the next thing that I need to fix, and the next little bit to try. So, and it's all building up the channel into an evolution of what I've done, the differences of how I've made things work. So I'm just touching up some little bits here. I've got, this is the mast. I coated it in the Mod Podge with the black paint. It held it a lip shape for a little while, because I bent it over an object, but it sort of, because it's only sort of glue, not a very strong glue, it sort of just went flat again. But it works with the sail, because it's got the shape that I wanted, and it's just a messy looking sort of an old sail, and it's neutral, it's just one colour. So when you're having your creating your campaign or your little event with this particular ship, you could name it whatever you want, and then just say that the emblem on the sail is a certain thing or a certain colour. So I didn't want to lock it in too much to a this is what it is. It's a generic ship that you can use in a number of different ways and build your game around. And then you could have some other ships for whatever your campaign's doing. Maybe like you're chasing this ship down, or this is your ship that you're chasing other ships with, and you get into battle, so you come along the side of each other's ship and roll the dice and see what comes of it. So it's really just the final touch-ups here. So let's see what this base is looking like. Alright. So the sand that I put on is not a lot. It just adds a very subtle look of bubbles. But what I intend to do is coat it in this Mod Podge, just to give pardon me, give the whole bit of water the look that it's wet. So just straight Mod Podge, I think. So just clear Mod Podge. It dries clear. It's essentially PVA and some extra sealant. So what I'm doing is just going to coat it. It's going to look like I've painted the whole thing white, but when it dries, it will dry clear and add that wet look, so that it's a little bit more watery rather than a painting of water. So just a light coat. So what I did for the undercoat is you just add black paint to this, and it creates a nice black undercoat and seals your project. So if you've got all the different materials you've used to make your boat or your building, it just pulls all those materials together into one sort of look. You don't want to put like it on too thick if you've got a lot of fine detail in the texture and stuff, because it might sort of fill it and make it a little bit too flat. But in this case I've got water and the details are quite big, so the waves and stuff, so it shouldn't block any of the detail. I put it over the wooden sticks, and it's still got that sort of wooden texture to it, so it did that really well as well. So I'm not gonna. I like the look of the wood, so I'm not going to put any more of this on there. So really I just want to coat as much of the water. Oh, I didn't want to put that on there. Anyway. I suppose you get water inside your boat as well. More so when you got it on your fingers, but anyway, should be a problem. So it's just giving it that last bit of protection, sealing in all that paint, but also giving it a more watery look. It says it's matte Mod Podge, but I've used it. Just gives it that little bit of a shine to what I've been using it for. And it dries clear, so all of that blue will show up again. And when it has a bit of a time to settle, it'll fill in those little crevices. So this will be the last coat of this, I think. This should seal all of this colour and give it a nice bit of protection, because you're going to be bumping it around on the table, and this will just give it that little bit of protection, durability, and hopefully it lasts a wee while. And the cool thing with all this is, like, if you did chip it or break it or something, you can just get your material out again and top it up, fix little cracks and whatnot. I mean, I don't think it's going to get too much use just at the moment, but I'm hoping it'll get used for a few campaigns. Some sea voyages or some naval battles. So just going around the edges. The bottom's okay, that's just what it looks like with the black paint in it. That's one of the undercoats. I'm not needing to do the underside. I'm thinking I might make a stamp for foam the ground up, and at some point put it on that with a little space to put a number on it. Project 5, 4, 3, something like that. 3, I think. So actually, I want something that's the Mod Podge. So I'll be using a lot of that for sealing my work before I start painting in that. That's all good. So that's going to dry. It's going to dry clear, and then it's going to give it that wet water sea look that I want. I've got my boat finished. I added a little bit of yellow just so it looks like these lanterns are going. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with these little name plates. I think what I might do is just give them a little bit of paint now, and then just a quick super glue on the side so that it's got a couple of name plates either side. Although I'm going to say it's the Billy of Tea, I might just leave the actual name off of it. And just leave that to sort of imagination when you're playing the game. You come up to the ship at night and you see the name written on the side of the ship. Something like that. So what I'll do is just a bit more black paint. So it's drying there. I'll just do an undercoat of black, then a bit of burnt sienna, which is the same as the wood that I've done. I could actually maybe mix in some other colour so it doesn't just look like a straight wooden panel, maybe like a goldy sort of nameplate, or a bronzed nameplate, like a little metal nameplate that they've put on the side of the ship. And I reckon this just sits on with a bit of super glue as the final attach. And yeah, so when you watch these, I do want to know your comments, like what you like, what you don't like, maybe what I could improve on. So far I enjoy the crafting. I've had to figure out all of the streaming and the background setup, so that the YouTube channel part of it, and how to, remembering to stream on a certain day. I was hoping to try and do Tuesdays regularly, but that hasn't quite happened. mentioned before, the camera setup is quite a way from where I'm sitting, so I'm sort of either reaching quite a way forward and needing to remember to reach quite a way forward so that the object I'm working on is in the middle of the screen. Otherwise I bring it to my face and it sort of disappears off the screen. So I've got some camera set up to play with. Maybe either a shorter desk with more of the equipment out to the side, or try and bring the camera mounting further towards me so it's at the edge of the desk and I can be up under the desk a bit more so that I'm working sort of more in the middle of the video shot. So there's things to work on and improvements to be made, but I think we're getting there. So there will be another stream. This will be dry. I'll attach these little name plates and make my final decision about painting the character on the front. Thinking pretty neutral, maybe like just a dry brush of bronze type colour. I mean, this is a lot of bronze and brown and black, but I quite like it. It suits the ship, and it keeps it neutral for your game if you decide to play with it on the tabletop. So I think that's it for now. I've got the masters finished. The sail, I put a little bit more black paint on, but it magnets to the sail here and makes it look like it's moving. And I think after the final stream, I'll put up some proper close-up shots of the ship on my little lightbox turntable, so that you get some proper detail rather than this camera being quite high in only one direction. I'll get the proper turntable view so that we can see what this looks like in its entirety. So I think for now that's it. So thank you very much for joining me, and I think, yeah, one more stream and we're nearly done. Thank you all, and we'll catch you again.